Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about the latest pilot welfare program for illegal migrants, for asylum fraudsters in the city of New York, because now the city has decided that it is a smart idea to take money away from American citizens who happen to be homeless, who happen to be on the street, who happen to need shelter, who are in search of permanent housing, and give that money to migrant families because they need it oh so much more, and at the same time, they're also going to bid up the prices of apartments in the city of New York so the poorest among us can get priced out of the market. Now, we're going to talk about this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
All right, a new pilot program from the city awarding up to $4,000 grants to migrant families who exit the shelter system and find their own housing.
So right off the top, I just want to tell everybody out there in the audience that this is not a joke. This is not an SNL sketch. This is not made up. This is a real program where illegal migrants, people who are defrauding the asylum system, are going to get up to $4,000. And it's said that this is for their first month and security deposit on a new apartment. But the devil is in the details. And even though they say this is targeted, it also covers moving expenses, housing supplies, and basically anything. And this is their method in order to get these people out of the shelters and into apartment buildings, so that way they can compete with you guys with your own tax dollars in the rental market, and you could suffer the consequences of increasing demand when we already have an ultra low vacancy in the city of New York.
A shelter is an emergency solution that is intended for the short term. It is important that short-term solution is safe and healthy, and that we are providing families with an opportunity to get back on their feet.
So right here, this is an official from the New York City Department of Homeless Services. This is supposed to be an organization that deals with and helps treat the homeless in the city of New York. You know, those mentally ill people that are struggling on the streets, that don't find their way into shelters very often, that end up getting crowded out of shelters by these illegal migrants. Well, guess what? No money for you. Too bad if you're a returning veteran with mental wounds that happen to have occurred from you fighting for our country overseas. These illegal migrant families take precedent over this, and we're going to talk about this glorious program in order to get them out of the shelters, because you know what we really need in our society is for these people to be spread out into all these different various apartments across New York City, so that way we can never deport them.
The New York City Department of Homeless Services is offering up to $4,000 to migrant families with children and pregnant women who are currently residing in a city shelter. It's called the Asylum Move Out Assistance Program, a pilot program that began last December, helping asylum seekers transition from a shelter to permanent housing. So far, 150 families have benefited from the program.
And make no mistake about this, the entrenchment of these illegal migrants, of these asylum fraudsters, is in fact the goal. And of course, it comes at the expense of not only taxpayers, but at the expense of renters, because if you don't have an extra $4,000 to plop down on your first month's rent and security deposit, there's nothing for you. You're totally screwed over because these people take priority over you.
We've done 150 families starting about 7 months ago. I think we've had one person from a family, not even the whole family, come back. So that is, in my mind, a very strong success rate thus far.
So I just want to say really quickly, I absolutely despise everything about this woman. Again, she is supposed to be working for the homeless in the city of New York. She's supposed to be aiding people that have slipped through the cracks. You know, these people that are supposedly one payment away from finding their way back onto their feet, and instead she has decided that she's going to aid the illegal migrants, and she said, hey look, we did this for 150 families so far, and only one of them has found their way back in the shelter in a 7 months or under period. And again, that short timetable is absolutely crucial, because in reality, some of these people could have gotten this money last month, and they were given first month's and security deposit, and in a couple of months, maybe, just maybe, they will not be able to afford their rent. They will not be able to live off of other government assistance programs to such a point where it's sufficient for them to lock down these places. And on top of that, with New York City squatting laws that benefit people who don't pay their rent in the city of New York, many of them might not be paying their rent right now at this moment. So you might be in a situation where you're looking for an apartment, you got priced out by an illegal migrant that got money from your tax dollars, and then they're squatting in the place so you you can't move in and you have to deal with the higher prices because right here they decided to stimulate demand in order to benefit the illegal migrants. So I don't give a damn that it's one person or one family right now that's back in the shelters. We have no idea how this is going to work out long term. And more importantly, we should not be subsidizing asylum fraudsters getting places to live across the city right now because they shouldn't be in the city. I'm so tired of all these programs for these people while your average everyday New Yorker gets totally screwed over. And they try to pull on the heartstrings by saying it's about the families and pregnant women and young children. But guess what? We have single American citizens that are homeless that could use some assistance that aren't getting this money. There's not unlimited money in the New York City budget. We hear about cuts to all the regular public services that tax-paying citizens actually contribute to, and this is in part where those cuts are going.
The one-time grant is modeled after the enhanced one-shot deal program for those in the traditional homeless shelters, only to be used for first and last month's rent, security deposits, moving expenses, and household supplies.
So yeah, they say it's only for all of these different various things, and trust us, it's not going to go to waste. It's not like we have a long track record of wasting people's money over at the Department of Homelessness. Except the fact is, they definitely do. This is all they do is incinerate taxpayer dollars, and now they're doing so as a mechanism in order to assist these people over American citizens. And yes, let me be clear about this. Single male American citizens take priority in my mind over illegal migrants defrauding the asylum system. They should be moved to some form of housing first, foremost, and always above these illegal aliens. And if you're gonna pay them $4,000, you should buy them a plane ticket and send them back to their home country. I'm sorry, but this is absurd. This is insane. The idea that you get to come to this country, live off the taxpayer dole, have all these different various programs allocating money to you as you drain our resources in our public school systems, in our hospitals, is just not workable for me. I'm not in favor of it, and something needs to be done about it. But the fact of the matter is, New York City and New York State have committed to this sanctuary city model, and this is the result of it. Cuts for average everyday American citizens and new innovative programs for illegal migrants that also just so happen to be not very traceable in terms of the money. So we're also seeing millions and maybe even billions of dollars being stolen.
It really is for documented expenses related to permanent housing. So that could be first and last month's rent. It could be moving expenses, household supplies, things that somebody who is brand new to the country, brand new to permanent housing might not have. But the shelter providers are really looking at documentation.
So yeah, she's like, don't worry, they're looking at all the documentation and asking for receipts, so it's perfectly fine. And again, even if that were true, even if I bought into the oversight in this particular department, which to be clear, I do not buy into the oversight in this particular department at all whatsoever. The fact of the matter is, you're taking money from New York's homeless, our citizens, people who fell through the cracks, people with mental illnesses, and giving it to illegal migrant families. And you're trying to sell me on this as sympathetic, but the fact of the matter is, charity is supposed to start at home. You're supposed to take care of your own before you take care of others, and these people are not our own. They are foreign citizens that came through the border under dubious justifications. They were paroled into the country by the border czar Kamala Harris, and they're taking advantage of our welfare systems, and now we're cutting money to our actual homeless population, to people who are actually citizens of the city of New York, leaving them on the streets to commit all manner of crimes, and we're letting these people rent apartments, and again, they are bidding up the prices of apartments against average citizens who are already poor, who are already struggling with the price of housing, and yet you want to inject all this money into these illegal migrants so that they can move into those apartments and price them out. It's disgusting.
The money is coming from DHS existing budget. Since the program is only a pilot, it is not offered at every migrant shelter, but only at 62 sites for now. The families themselves have to find housing, and once they do, they work with the not-for-profit providers operating at the shelters who help them with the process.
Yeah, that's right. It comes from the DHS budget, which I originally thought was the Department of Homeland Security, so I thought it was a federal grant, so I was like, whatever, nothing you could do about it. But it turns out it's the Department of Homeless Services. It is New York City's governing body in terms of providing aid to our homeless that is actually paying for this program. It's paying for these migrants. And they say it's modeled after a program that already exists for regular, ordinary American homeless people. But the fact of the matter is, you're stealing from them. You're stealing from all of us as taxpayers and using these people against us and bidding up our rent for what? For people who shouldn't be here, for people who defrauded the asylum system. Need I say this again? Obviously, we need to reinstitute the policies like Remain in Mexico that don't allow these people to come through 6 different countries to their first choice, the United States of America, and all of a sudden declare asylum when you get here. Asylum is supposed to be, I'm afraid of persecution or death in my home country, and you're supposed to actually set up or request asylum in the next available country. These people skip 5 countries, skip 6 countries, show up at the United States border, and Kamala Harris, the border czar, because Biden campaigned on this, lets them in, because supposedly that's who we are, and we should let these people surge to the border.
I would in fact make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
How many times do we have to see this before people get mad? How many times do we have to see this happen in our country and across this country, by the way? It's not just in the blue cities, before people say they've had enough and they don't want their tax dollars going to these illegal migrants. And the fact of the matter is, right now, we are up against a presidential election where one candidate is the border czar, is the architect of this policy in a lot of ways, and will continue these policies, continue flooding these people into this nation in the hopes that they can be turned into voters in the future based on the fact that they were let in by the Democrats. This is the plan. This is the strategy. It is clear and obvious, and it's not some conspiracy or anything like that. It is just one party looking at people who will potentially vote for them and trying to make it easier for them to enter the country, get entrenched, and eventually become American citizens. And right now, they have the status of super citizen, where they get all these different various programs, and we even cut from American citizens in order to bend over backwards to hand them money. And I'm sick of it, and everybody should be sick of it. I said it before, and I'll say it again. If you were in Venezuela, Guatemala, or any of these countries that are experiencing all these kind of problems, and you economically migrated to the United States of America, claimed asylum at the border, and were rewarded with all these different perks and prioritized over the American citizen, you would do the same thing. The problem here is the incentive structure, and the fact of the matter is, this is what needs to change. It's not about the people being super immoral or terrible or anything like that, although there is a gang or criminal population amongst these illegal migrants that are coming to this country. But the fact is, we have incentivized this behavior on a broad scale, and we're living with the consequences day after day after day.
It makes financial sense because shelter is very expensive, and this is a targeted one-time payment.
So this Department of Homeless Services woman says, oh, look, this program is ingenious, and it's so much cheaper for us to do this because it's just a one-time payment instead of long-term shelter housing for these illegal migrants. That's much more expensive. But remember, she said that they've already had somebody come back, a family, into the shelter. And I just want to ask the question, did you get that $4,000 back? Did you deny them entry into the shelter? Because in reality, we both know the answer to that question, which is no. So you can give these people this $4,000. They can go bid up the price of apartments, maybe become a squatting problem for the landlord or something like that, then end up back in the shelter. You'll readmit them, and on top of that, you won't even ask for the money back. So no, this is not a better alternative. A better alternative would be sending these people back to their home country, not providing shelter for them, telling them, hey, look, you cannot defraud the asylum system and expect to live off the largesse of the New York City taxpayer in perpetuity. But they'll never do that because these people are God tier above the American citizen, and they want them to know that at each and every turn.
It would be a great support to be able to have our own space, to be able to socialize directly with our families. The children suffer the most being bounced around, just no stability.
So they interview this mother, and she says, oh, it would be so great to have our own space. It would be so great to be able to just socialize with our families. And you know, the children are really suffering the most out of everyone. Well, guess what? Nobody told you to bring your kids to the United States of America, except for the Democrats and the Biden administration. If you didn't want to be bounced around through the shelters, then you can go back to your home country and live a life where you can actually work in your home country. You're defrauding the asylum system right now. So no, I don't care if you think it would be nice for people to be settled. I think it would be nice if I could buy a damn house in the neighborhood that I grew up in, but that's probably never going to happen despite the fact that I make a great living doing this YouTube stuff. My wife works a good job, and part of the reason why is there's so much demand in the city of New York for property, and they restrict building, and guess what? Adding all these new people and giving them money to boost up demand doesn't help me, the American citizen, and it doesn't help American citizens in this city that are far worse off than I am. But apparently, we're supposed to praise this. We're supposed to say, great job, take more money away from American homeless people, let them be addicted to drugs, suffer through mental illnesses, become destitute on the street, because look at this innocent migrant family right here that's defrauding our asylum system and leeching off the taxpayer in all these different various ways. Don't you feel sympathetic for her because she chose to come here and then defraud the asylum system after passing through 6 countries where she could have easily claimed asylum? But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about homeless funding being cut and given to migrants. Till next time.